Good day, everyone. Today, I'll be presenting a study entitled Detection of Water Leakage Paths Using Self-Potential and Geoelectrical Resistivity Methods, a case study of Kailan Lake Taktsagar in the Jodhpur city, Rajasthan, India. It mainly focuses on a critical issue in dam safety, detecting water leakage paths in embankment dams using geophysical methods. Here's the content. We have introduction, study area, geology and hydrology, materials and methods, result and discussion, and lastly, the conclusion. Did you know that flowing water underground can actually generate electric fields? This happens when water moves through porous materials like soil or rock, creating what's known as the electrokinetic coupling. This natural electrical activity, called the cell potential or the SP method, has been observed in areas like volcanoes, dams, and reservoirs. Scientists use the SP method to detect water leakage in dams, especially earthen dam builds over fractured or faulted bedrock, where water often escapes unnoticed. A negative SP anomaly usually indicates where water is entering the dam, and a positive anomaly shows where it exits. Alongside SP, the electrical resistivity method helps identify underground fractures that act as leakage paths. By combining both methods, researchers can pinpoint where water is seeping, making it easier to prevent structural damage and manage water resources more effectively. In this study, both SP and the resistivity surveys were used to detect these leakage paths in an embankment dam. So for the study area, we have the Kailana Lake Taktsagar in the Jodhpur city, Rajasthan, India. Jodhpur city has always faced challenges with groundwater. It's limited and often of poor quality, so traditionally, the city relied on surface water through clever ancient systems like step wells, ponds, and open wells to collect rainwater. The Kailana Lake Taktsagar reservoir is now the main water source. And to meet the growing water demand from the rising population, this lake was connected to the Rajiv Gandhi Lift Canal, which increased the water supply and the storage capacity. However, this improvement led to an unexpected problem: a continuous rise in the groundwater table in some part of the city. Water started leaking into underground shafts, causing dampness in walls, foundation issues, and damage to buildings. Studies shows that this is linked to the increased water level in Kailana Lake Taktsagar. That's why a detailed investigation is needed to trace the water leakage paths and locate underground fractures that allow in the water spread into the city. For the geology and the hydrology, Jodhpur city has a complex landscape, with the old city built on hilly terrain and flattered land spreading on towards the southeast and southwest. Geologically, it sits on a mixed sandstone, shale, and the limestone from the Vindayan group, along with Malani rhyolite, an older volcanic rock. This formation date back hundreds of millions of years from the Proterozoic to the Paleozoic era. The rhyolite rock, especially in the Kailana Lake Taktsagar area, is highly fractured and weathered, which makes it a key zone for the water leakage. Due to the past tectonic activity, the area has developed faults, joints, and fractures that extend toward the city. These features allow the groundwater to move easily through the rocks. From a hydrogeological point of view, the fractured rhyolite zones are the main reason for groundwater leakage and movement, playing a big role in the water-related issues the city faces today. Let's go to the materials and methods. For measuring self-potential or the SP, a fixed reference method was used with electrodes placed 5 meters apart. A base station was carefully selected at a stable spot with no longer changes in the electrical potential to ensure reliable readings. To reduce noise caused by the electrode contact, special non-polarizable electrode with large contact areas were used. So before taking measurements, holes at each station were prepared and watered several hours in advance to improve the conductivity and get consistent results. The equipment used was the DDR2 resistivity meter from Integrated Geo Instruments, capable of measuring with very high accuracy down to 1 millivolts. After that, three survey lines, each 500 meters long, were laid out in the study area. One profile ran parallel to Kailana Lake, while the other two were set parallel to the line but offset by 50 and 100 meters. All profiles were oriented roughly north to south, helping to the map SP variations across the area. As you can see on the figure 1, geoelectrical sounding was performed using a thermometer SAS300 device with the Schlumber J electrode setup. This method involved two sets of current electrode spacings called the AB over 2 ranging from 2 to 200 meters, while the potential electrodes stayed at a fixed distance between zero point 0.5 and 20 meters. In total, 71 sounding measurements were used, combining both new fields data and older data from the groundwater department for location where new measurements were difficult. This sounding helps map underground layers. For the result and the discussion, first we have the self-potential interpretation. The interpretation of the SP data is mainly qualitative. The movement of groundwater in the formation affects the magnitude and the sign positive or negative of self-potential anomaly. The SP values have been plotted against the distance of the measuring electrode with reference to the base electrode. The observed positive SP anomaly is interpreted keeping in view that it is caused by a streaming potential which is developed due to the flow of groundwater in the fractured formation. The results of the SP surveys have been presented in this figure. Based on the SP data, a contour map was prepared to show the variation in SP anomalies under this figure. The contour map shows a similar pattern and corresponds to the positive peaks as observed in the SP profiles. SP anomalies in the contour map show the possible presence of leakage paths, which shows the maximum SP anomalies values at offset 50 meter, 200 meter, 310 meter, 400 meter, and 450 meter. The leakage paths coincide with the fractured zones delineate in the geoelectrical cross-section AA and EE at GS1, GS2, GS3, and the piezometer. Let's proceed to the geoelectrical cross-section area. First, we have geoelectrical cross-section A to A. A geoelectrical cross-section about 8 kilometers long was created using data from soundings and boreholes running roughly west-northwest to east-southeast. It shows mostly 4 underground layers except one area with 5 layers. At the surface, the top layer is sandy soil with resistivity ranging from 50 to 395 ohm meters, varying due to soil type and moisture, and is about 1 to 3 meters thick. Below this, the western part has layers of semi-fractured, fractured, and compact rhyolite rock with resistivity values indicating how broken or solid the rock is. On the eastern side, the layer includes sand with kankar, shale, sandstone, and highly resistant rhyolite at the bottom. The fractured rhyolite zones on the western side, just above bedrock, shows lower resistivity values, indicating broken rock where groundwater can leak. Because of these fractured zones near the surface on the western side, there is a high chance of groundwater leaking both horizontally and vertically in this area, which is important for managing water flow and leakage risks. The second geoelectrical cross-section runs about 6.6 kilometers in a west-southeast to east-northeast direction and passes through an area with known water leakage. It was created using data from 6 geoelectrical soundings and borehole information to understand the underground geology better. The top layer varies in resistivity from 42 to 170 ohm meters and is about 14 meters thick. Below that, there is a layer of sand and kankar with resistivity between 40 and 120 ohm meters. On the western side, the layers include fractured rhyolite with resistivity between 125 and 210, and below it, semi-fractured rhyolite at around 500 ohm meters. On the eastern side, the layers consist of shale, sandstone, and highly resistivity rhyolite at depth. Since the upper layers on the western side include sand, kankar, and fractured rhyolite, this zone is very likely to allow water leakage, which is important for understanding groundwater flow and potential leakage risk in the area. Next one, we have geoelectrical cross-section C to C. This geoelectrical cross-section runs about 7.6 kilometers from west-northwest to east-southeast. It is based on tree sounding results and borehole data to understand underground layers. The section mostly shows four layers except one spot with five layers. The top layer is surface, is soil with resistivity between 110 and 260 ohm meters, and thickness from 1.5 to 5 meters. Below that is a layer of dry sand mixed with kankar with resistivity between 40 and 90 ohm meters and thickness varying from 2 to 10 meters. Next is the Jodhpur sandstone layer with resistivity between 26 and 36 ohm meters and thickness from 20 to 40 meters, confirmed by borehole data. A thin shale layer appears just above the bedrock in one area. The bottom layer is semi-fractured to fractured rhyolite with resistivity ranging from 500 to 250 ohm meters. Since sandstone and fractured rhyolite have connected pores, groundwater can easily move through these zones, so leakage both horizontally and vertically is likely in this area. Next one, we have geoelectrical cross-section E to E. This cross-section is about 7.4 kilometers long and runs roughly from the north to northeast at south to southwest, located near the Kailana Taksagar Reservoir. It is based on four geoelectrical soundings and borehole data to understand the underground layers and their hydrogeology. The section shows four main layers throughout. The top layer is surface soil with resistivity values between 110 and 395 ohm meters and thickness ranging from 1 to 5 meters. Below that, in the northern part, there is semi-fractured rhyolite with a resistivity around 203 ohm meters. Towards the south, this layer changes to dry sand and kankar with resistivity between 40 and 111 ohm meters. For the next one, last one, we have geoelectrical sections, FF. This cross-section, about 8.8 kilometer long, runs in the northeast to southwest southwest directions and covers a major part of the leakage prone area. It is based on the five geoelectrical soundings and boreholes data to understand the subsurface layers. The section shows four main layers. The top layer is surface soil with resistivity ranging from 40 to 180 ohm meters and a thickness between 1 and 6 meters. Beneath Beneath it, the second layer consists of dry sand and kankar with resistivity between 34 and 93 ohm meters. This layer's thickness varies from 8 to 32 meters. The third layer is mainly shale, um, identified by low resistivity values from 10 to 26 ohm meters, except in the central region where sandstone is present. The thickness of this layer ranges from 32 to 48 meters. Finally, the bottom layer includes compact rhyolite in the north, semi-fractured rhyolite in the middle, and granite in the south. The upper sedimentary layers may have small cracks along the contact with bedrock. These fractures and joints are potential pathways for groundwater leakage, both horizontal and vertical. In conclusion, the study area is geologically complex with numerous shear joints, bedding planes, and highly fractured, weathered, and faulted rock formations. Self-potential or the SP anomalies observed at specific offsets 50 meter, 200 meter, 310 meter, 400 meter, and 450 meter indicate the presence of potential leakage paths. These align with the fractured zones identified in the geoelectrical cross-section. The subsurface profiles revealed that weathered and fractured rhyolite formations extend from near the surface to deeper depths. These fractured pathways allow water from Kailana Lake Takat Sagar to leak into the surrounding formations and potentially reach the city area. Overall, the integration of geophysical data confirms that significant water leakage is occurring through interconnected fracture zones, emphasizing the need for careful monitoring and mitigation to manage groundwater resources effectively. That's all, and thank you for listening.